If you are thinking about picking one up, I just want to walk you through my experience using it the way I actually ride day to day. On rough streets, some uneven pavement, a couple of hills, and a few nighttime rides where lighting and braking really matter. The first thing I noticed is the feel. It comes across more like a small utility scooter than a lightweight last-mile toy. The frame feels thick and rigid when I pick it up and when I stand on it. When I push down on the deck and lean into the handlebars, it does not feel hollow or flexy. The deck is wide enough that I can place my feet in a stable stance instead of stacking them in a narrow line, and the grip texture helps when the ground is damp. I saw one listing online that described the deck width in a way that did not make sense, but in real life, it feels like a normal wide commuter deck, not some unusually narrow platform. This scooter does fold, and I do fold it when I put it in a trunk. The latch on my unit closes with a solid click and it has not popped loose on me. Still, I would not describe it as something I want to carry upstairs every day. It is heavy enough that I plan the lift. For me, that weight shows up as stability on the road, but it is the main trade-off if your commute includes stairs, elevators that are always broken, or carrying it onto public transit. Up at the handlebars, the display is simple and easy to read outside. I like that because I do not want to squint at tiny icons while I am moving. There is a single button approach that cycles through the speed modes, and I got used to it fast. I prefer that over a bunch of button combos I forget a week later. The lighting is one of the more noticeable parts in real use. The headlight is bright enough for me to see the edge of the road on darker streets, the brake light is clear, and the turn signals are actually visible from behind. There are also deck lights that make you easier to spot from the side. It looks a little loud in daylight, but at night I genuinely felt more comfortable because cars could tell where I was. Before I rode, I did what I always do with a scooter. I checked the bolts, made sure the stem felt tight, and made sure the brakes were centered and not rubbing too much. Setup was not a project. After that, I paired the scooter to the app. The app let me change a couple of practical things, like units and some sound settings. I turned off the beep that happens when you change modes because I got tired of hearing it every time I adjusted speed. The app also has a basic lock function, and I want to be clear about how I treat that. I use it as a small deterrent if I am stepping away for a minute, not as my main security plan. If I am leaving it outside, I still lock it properly. Now let me talk about the tire situation, because I saw confusing information online and I understand why people hesitate. The unit I rode has pneumatic tires, and you can tell quickly because the ride has that slightly cushioned feel over rough asphalt and cracks. It also uses standard style valves, so checking and adjusting pressure is easy with a normal pump. If someone ends up with solid tires on a different batch or listing, the ride is going to feel firmer, especially on choppy pavement. In my opinion, it is worth confirming the tire type with the seller before buying, because it changes comfort more than people expect. On the road, the scooter feels built for torque and stability. Acceleration is brisk in the higher modes. It does not feel like it is struggling to get up to commuting speed, and it pulls confidently on flat ground. I did see the display indicate about 28 miles per hour, and when I checked with a global positioning system speed reading on my phone, I was hovering around 27 to 28 miles per hour when I tucked in a bit. I am about 190 pounds, and it still had enough push on moderate hills that I was not crawling. I could feel it digging in and keeping momentum instead of fading out halfway up. Range is always the part where I try to stay realistic, because riding style changes everything. When I rode at mixed speeds, with some stops, some hills, and a few faster stretches, I ended up in the low 20s for miles before I felt like I needed to head back. When I stayed calmer and let it cruise instead of sprinting everywhere, I got closer to the mid-20s. That lines up with what I would expect from a scooter like this when you ride it like a normal person. Charging from low to full took me a bit over 7 hours, so I treated it as an overnight charge. It is not the kind of scooter where I come home, plug it in for an hour, and expect to be back at 100%. Ride comfort is a mix, and this is where my opinion is very specific. The front suspension does a genuinely good job taking the sting out of potholes and speed bumps. I noticed it most when I hit those ugly patches of road where the front wheel usually slaps and chatters. The back suspension, on the other hand, feels stiffer with less give. On smoother pavement, that is fine. On sharp hits, I still felt the impact travel up through the rear of the deck. It is not painful, but it is noticeable, and after a longer ride my lower back could tell the difference compared to a scooter with a more balanced suspension setup. I also tested it on some gravel and a short stretch of grass, not as a stunt, just as the kind of shortcut you sometimes take. It can do it, but I would not pretend it turns into an off-road machine. The front end stays composed, and the back end is the part that kicks and chatters. I found it works best on broken city streets and mild, uneven paths, not loose or bumpy trails. At higher speeds, stability is mostly good up through the low 20s in miles per hour. Near top speed, I did notice a slight wobble. For me, it was manageable, but it was real. I got the best results when I kept proper tire pressure, kept a firm stance with knees slightly bent, and made sure the stem hardware was tight. If you are new to faster scooters, I would treat the highest mode as something you use after you are comfortable with how it responds, not something you pin immediately on your first ride. Braking is one of the stronger parts of the experience. The dual disc brakes have a strong bite, but they are not overly grabby. I could modulate them and slow down smoothly without feeling like I was about to get thrown forward. I also like that motor power cuts when you pull the levers, because it shortens stopping distance and makes the scooter feel more predictable. In damp conditions, I still ride cautiously, but the brake feel stayed consistent for me. Daily usability comes down to a few things. The deck space makes longer rides easier because I can move my feet around and stay comfortable. The controls are simple, so I am not fighting the interface. The lighting makes me more willing to ride at night because I feel more visible from different angles. The weight and size mean I treat it as a commuter scooter that I park, lock, and ride, not something I want to carry around inside stores or haul up staircases. After spending real time on it, my overall impression is that the Isinwheel Z1 makes sense for someone who wants a sturdy ride for rough pavement, wants strong braking, and rides in places where hills are part of the route. It is also a good fit if you value visibility at night and you want turn signals that other people can actually see. The main limitations for me are the stiff rear suspension, the long charge time, and that slight high-speed wobble that asks you to pay attention when you push it near the top end. And I still think the tire listing confusion out there is a problem, because tires change the whole feel of the scooter. If you have been using the Isinwheel Z1, I want to hear what your tire setup is and what kind of range you are getting in your area. Leave a comment with your weight, your usual speed, and whether your routes are flat or hilly. If this video helped, subscribe to the channel for more real-world scooter reviews, and thank you for watching.